Hey guys, how's it going? It's Grim. So today I'm making a video about The Great Pretender, which is the last anime that I need to make a video about in my anime award series. But before I do that, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you know right when I upload, because I'm going to upload every other day this week and do the same thing next week. And I'm going to be making a video about Haikyuu and this other valuable anime that I found that's currently airing. So watch out for those. Yeah, anyways, let's get right into it. So I'm going to go over the plot of The Great Pretender, which is going to have a couple spoilers in it and stuff. And if you're not cool with that, or if you haven't experienced it for yourself, or whatever the case may be, if you don't want to get spoiled, then I'd suggest clicking up the video right now because it's going to be filled with spoilers. And the anime is on Netflix. If you want to watch it, it's a Netflix exclusive. So go ahead and watch it first because I think it's better without spoilers. The entire premise of the anime is kind of ruined with the spoilers. So yeah, anyways, let's just get right into it. So the plot of Great Pretender is about this guy, and his name is Edamura. And he's this scammer in Japan, right? And so one day he's scamming this one guy, and turns out that guy is a scammer too. And he doesn't find out until he gets scammed himself. But he learns that he's not the best scammer in the world, and not the greatest scammer in the world like he thinks he is. So then this guy, and his name is Laurent, he hires him to work for him as another scammer. So he just goes around and they do a couple jobs. And then you meet this other girl, and there's a bunch of other things that happen. The first season isn't really that important, but it's a good background. You need to watch the first season. You can't just jump into the second season. But I'd say the first season is a lot worse than the second season. It's just a lot of setting up stuff. Because the main things that I liked about it were kind of the villains and just how the OST was really good in both first and second season. But stuff like that was just the only good part. There wasn't any really good plot points, any development that really happened. And I think that kind of sucks because Season 2 really does pick up, so Season 1 might turn a lot of people off. But basically what happens in Season 1 is they scam a couple of these guys that are doing not good things, right? So the first one is, I don't remember exactly what he does, but he buys this thing called Sakura Magic, which is like a drug that Edamura kind of makes up. And it's like off of this Japanese candy, so it's not actually a drug, right? And so he buys it off him for, I think, $1 billion, I think it is. No, it's $100 million that he buys it off of him for. And the FBI gets involved, like not the actual FBI, but stuff like that happens. And they basically scam him, and he's gone now. And then so the next one, that kind of happens for 2 more times, right? So the next one that they scam is this guy who does like an airplane race. And he's scripting his flights and stuff, and so they don't like that. And he's done a couple other things too. Again, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've finished Season 1. But basically, the entire premise of Season 1, again, it's just really a lot of setting up stuff, so I don't even really blame myself for not remembering it. And then the last guy that they scam is this painter, or not the painter, he's what they call an appraiser, and basically he goes around and he looks at people's art and sees if he can buy good art cheap and sell it off for a bigger price, right? And he kind of wants to hoard all the art in the world and stuff like that. He kind of makes his auctions go towards one person, and that one person always ends up winning, right? Because he's using her and to get all the art and stuff with her money and stuff. I think that's how it went. And so after they do that, they make a fake version of the painting that he wants and sell it to him for $100 million. So yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff goes around with the fake stuff, and there's a really interesting backstory between the red hair girl and this other guy that does the copy of the painting. But I'm not going to try to spoil too much again because this is a lot of the first season stuff, and I know I said there's a spoiler warning at the beginning of the video, but I don't really want to spoil first season because the first season is kind of the entry point, and just to how it, I don't know, there aren't really many spoilers that would help you understand the plot better anyways, so I don't really think that I can do too much about the first season spoilers. There's not really much to explain about the first season. But now we get into the second season, and we have a whole nother cast of characters that gets introduced, and these characters are Edamura's dad. We get a lot more of Lauren's backstory. We see a lot more of the old woman. I can't remember what her name is either. And then we see a new character, which is Lauren's girlfriend. I can't remember her name, though. And that's basically the 4 of them, and it's the early scam group. It's before Lauren's even a scammer. And they go around and they start trying to, they scam a bunch of people. Same thing that Edamura kind of did. And they just started doing getting a lot of money and stuff like that. they're all gonna quit, right? Because Lauren's gonna marry the girl, and the other two are kind of getting tired of doing it. So they want to do one last big heist, right? And this one last big heist ends up going way wrong, and Lauren's girlfriend ends up dying, and the woman ends up almost like a lot of them just having to split up, and I believe Edamura's dad has to flee to somewhere, and basically it's not a good situation, right? It's a failed scam. After the corporation that Lauren basically infiltrates the corporation that they're trying to scam, and the head guy in the corporation basically is talking to Lauren, and he says that Lauren doesn't look great, and it's because his girlfriend died and all that. And he said he can go home because Lauren basically made up this thing where it's like his mom was in the hospital, all that kind of stuff. And he goes home, and it's not a good situation for anybody, right? And so what they try to do then is Lauren tries to get a bunch of people to work with him, and that's where the season 1 cast comes in, right? With Abby, and Abby's the main girl, by the way, and Edamura and all those characters, right? And so for Edamura's first 3 missions, that's kind of him training him to do the big last one. And the big last one is the same one that they did when Lauren was younger. And they try to scam this big corporation again. And it's actually multiple now this time. It's 2 corporations. And they get, I believe, somewhere like $100 billion, something like that. Maybe, I don't know the exact money. It's hard to remember how much money they got. But yeah, I'm not going to run into too many more plot things because I think that was just a lot of me rambling, right? The plot's kind of hard to go into without the suspense and everything, so I think the main thing I want to touch on is what I thought about this anime, right? What makes it so great, and what actually made me put it as a 10 out of 10, which is not something that I like to give out often, right? I've given it out to JoJo's and Death Note and all that, but this is one of those anime that for some reason I just had to give a 10, right? And I might change that later to a 9, I'm not sure, but for right now it's sitting at a good 10. What I liked in this anime, I really liked the characters, as you can tell. I think Lauren was a great character to introduce at the beginning and then build on at the end, and I like the unique way that they develop the characters in terms of not just their experience and all that stuff, but going back into the past and not necessarily doing a flashback, but more so just looking back into a story as Edamura or something, because the whole flashback thing gets a little too overused in anime, as we all know. It's a huge thing that is just not great, that's overused and could be done without, right? And so I like how they dive into all the backstories with Laurent and all the other characters in a unique and different way. And it kind of reminds me of a Hollywood movie in a way, not really with the flashback thing, but more so just how the plot progresses. Obviously it has that detective kind of 007 vibe. That's the one, you know what vibe I'm talking about if you've watched like heist movies and stuff. It's literally an American heist movie in anime, and I think that's really cool. And how they can make everything a little more dramatic, right? And I think, or a little less dramatic, depending on which side you look at, right? Because the deaths aren't very dramatic, they're just like, oh, there they go, right? And in other movies, it'd be like, oh no, big thing, right? And so I think that's a really cool thing that they did, right? Is kind of an American movie plot, but with a Japanese animation, voice actor, stuff like that. And speaking on the Japanese part, I also liked how in the sub, at least, I'm not sure about the dub, but when Laurent is talking in Chinese or when some other character is talking in a different language, most of the time, except for English, because at the beginning they do it, but at the rest of the story they don't, because it's, not great. I think that the way that they speak in different languages, like when Lauren speaks in Chinese and French and all that, they actually speak in their languages. I think that's a really cool thing that not any anime has ever done before, because in Jojo, right, that would have been another perfect opportunity to do it, but they didn't do it, right? Which I think Jojo is the most Japanese, style of anime manga that you can find. The whole or Muda Muda thing wouldn't be a thing with French or British or English or French or whatever other language, because Polnareff would speak French and Jojo would speak Japanese and be a whole different thing, and that just wouldn't be that fun to watch. But I think they could still do it nonetheless. Maybe something like Golden Wind would be in Italian. I think that would be the best thing that they could do. But that obviously didn't happen, and I liked how The Great Pretender did stuff like this and had little bonuses, I guess I would call them, in the background. And I really liked how the plot paced, right? How the plot progressed at the right pace. I think that was a really good plot pacing. I think that The Great Pretender does that amazingly, and a lot of other anime just can't really do that as good as Great Pretender does. And what The Great Pretender does different than any other anime in the in the face of plot pacing right now is they have 2 seasons, but it feels like 1 season, right? And I think no other anime has done that before. And that's not to say that they extended it, right? That's just to say it feels like one whole story instead of... When you watch My Hero, it feels like they're different segments, right? Like, you can clearly tell at the beginning of My Hero, there is the whole getting introduced to characters and battle against Shigaraki and all of that stuff that happens at the university. But then, immediately after that, they go their separate ways for a bit, and then they come back into the tournament arc. And it feels like a huge segment. It feels like, it was supposed to be segmented somewhere. And I feel like The Great Pretender doesn't do that, because obviously there's the end, and there's like, oh, well, you could stop here if you want to, but I definitely wouldn't recommend stopping at the end of Season 1, because Season 2 definitely picks up. But at the end of Season 1, how they kind of just say, oh, well, we're going to leave this loose and open, right? And then not change the intro and not change too much about the plot and nothing about the OST. And I feel like that makes The Great Pretender feel like one whole show instead of 2 separate seasons. And also keep in mind that this came out around the same time. I only think they took like a month break. So it's pretty much all the consistent season, but maybe it aired differently in Japan, I'm not sure. The way Netflix released it, I believe, was just like, they released it all in one wave. I think they did one month and one another month. But in Japan, I don't know how it aired. If it aired weekly and just consecutively, then I can understand. But if they split it up into 2 seasons and had a bit of a break in there, you can definitely jump right back in and not even feel like you had a break out of it. Or you could just keep binging and feel like there's no break at all, right? So I feel like The Great Pretender does that extremely well, how you can take a break between seasons, or you just don't have to at all, and it would still feel the same. Now, another thing I really liked is how they showed off Lauren's emotions, and this is very clear in Season 2. I'm not going to tell exactly what they do, but basically when his girlfriend dies and all that stuff, they have a lot of different flashbacks, not flashbacks, I hate using that word, but that's the only thing I can use to describe it. He has a lot of PTSD type stuff. I'm not sure what the exact term is called, but he has a lot of mental disorder looking stuff that's going on. And I think the way they portray it is really good, and you just kind of have to watch the show for yourself, because I don't want to, not that I don't want to spoil it, because I already gave the warning again, but the way that they do it is just really unique, and you'll see what I mean if you watch the show. Not really unique, but really well done, I would say. So, one last thing that I liked was how Edamura developed through the entire series. And now, if you watch from Season 1 to Season 2, you could definitely tell that there was a drastic improvement in Edamura's character. In the first season, he's all know-it-all, and then he goes down to being this wimp, and then he comes back up to being one of the greatest scammers. So, I think that's something that no other anime does the same, that Great Pretender does too. And all along this way of everything I've just described, you also have the amazing OST, the amazing feel of the show, and everything just kind of coming together to make this really great heist anime that I don't really think has been done before. I don't really think we've had many heist animes. And I say that a lot with all the anime that I review, right? Like, we haven't seen a good furry anime, or we haven't seen a good racing anime besides Steel Ball Run, and that's just a manga right now. But I really feel like Great Pretender does this amazing, right? And the last thing I wanted to just touch on real quick before I have to go is that I didn't think Great Pretender would be Anime of the Year. I didn't think that from Season 1. I still don't think that from Season 2. And obviously it didn't. But there's some things that I wish it got the award for, like Best OST or whatever. And it could have got Best OST, I don't actually remember, but I don't believe it got any awards. So that kind of sucks. And yeah, anyways, guys, thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.